So if you've been watching my videos, they're rough cuts. We're not may hide anything. I'll get time later in the year to make it fleshed out so it isn't filled with dead air. Ostensibly hang in there because the channel's growing. Yeah. Let's first check out this rig real quick. Hey, we had this rig over in the neighborhood this morning, and it was totally off of StarCraft. Each corner had these jacks that extended outwards, and you know what a car jack is, but this thing had it on every corner, so it was, when you have like these stable structures, you're able to do a lot with them. And so it comes down to like what a parent function is. In these connoisseurship things, people, there's only a handful of stuff that you need, and then it's done right, you can actually go to the moon and back. But with connoisseurship, it comes to what resources is. And it always bugs me. It's these kids who, like, they'll be describing something or painting something, and the parent or the teacher or the guardian, the chaperone, they admire it and say, oh, it's adorable, this is so great. If you're an adult, you lose the charm, you're doing the same thing, and they think that it's distasteful, and you could be looked at as schizophrenic. But no, it's non-conventional. And so in movie making, it's always these cut scenes where you don't know what happens when the camera shuts off. And so if the camera shutting off is this literal representation where anything could happen when the camera's off and you see the next scene. So it's Harrison Ford was telling the actor of Luke Skywalker, after they get out of like a trash bin, Luke Skywalker's like, isn't we supposed to have trash on us and we're cleaning this next scene? And Harrison Ford's like, it isn't that kind of movie, kid. And that speaks numbers, because I would make a movie where it shows like them getting cleaned off and making sure that they look clean and everything for some odd reason for the next scene where they're entirely clean. And so it's that, and then I'd watch the whole movie of the Transformers where they're in their vehicles and not robots. So they're just in the prone position. This is what unconventional is, and this is what a great aim would be for, to just have this style. It would be it's called like a flow in the movie, or a video if the video flows. Non-conventional, you could do stuff like this, and this is what it would be. So there's that, and then I forgot the rest, so just watch this next because it's great. Oh yeah, with bread. Bread is one of the hardest things to bake, and so if you're eating a calzone, it's like a hybrid bread where you get stuff inside of the bread. It's 3 types of cheeses. One of them is ricotta, and ricotta, it's hard to cook. It doesn't melt as well. So if you're not cooking the thing to a highest degree of professionalism, it's going to come out patty wonkus. And so, I mean, it can be like not that great. It can be okay if the ingredients are top notch. It will be okay despite it not being cooked well. Even though the outside's baked, it's, you know, twice as hard to bake it because it's a hybrid bread. So that faction alone is what sets things apart. But no, really, it's these restaurants, they get their food from like this food truck, and it's a company that provides it. So to not look at that company providing the food and judge them off how they're handling it would be a joke on its face. And this is what connoisseurship would have. But once again, if the resources are there in connoisseurship, it falls flat on its face, and you'd look like you have egg on your face. I'm explaining that if you want a flat rate, you're going to have to address a nonprofit formally, you know. And so this guy told me that it's this biggest thing where there's laws that are so pesky and one of them are digital. It's where if you're underage, you can't scan alcohol. And so you have someone above age scan alcohol, for a transaction in a store if you're a cash register. And then you also, by law, are prohibited to type in a birthday to complete the sale. You would need someone above age to type in the birthday after they've scanned the actual object. So it's an object, but it's also tied into a digital landscape within entering in a birthday. So this would be equal to a pesky law of that driving under the influence is operating a vehicle. If you're drunk in public, that's an offense. But if you're pushing a bike and your hands are on its pedals, you are operating a vehicle. If you are also drunk, DUI if you're doing that. So as the words of Young Dolph, I'm the OUI should not be behind a wheel. That would even be applied to handlebars if you're pushing them. And I can just imagine that's the same thing as like a plow. When a guy was pushing a plow and it had horses pulling it. It's this whole thing with pulling where if you're in hell, don't call out for God because he's the one who put you there. You call out for Jesus. And so it's the same thing where it's a baby being born because God turns his back on you, says he didn't know you. Then you get sent to hell. That's like one of the intros to the hellscape. The baby being born. Now I can be an advocate of this because I came out with my feet first, and then like some babies come out with their umbilical cord wrapped around their neck. So the mother's trying to push them out. What's going through the baby's head is it doesn't want to be pushed out. It's got a cord around its neck and it's tightening every time that the mother's pushing. And so if you need technology in any time in life, it's in seeing this and preventing it from happening. But it's this whole passage is like where Jesus ripped the veil. That's like some 4D type shit. Because it's like a place. And this is the whole thing with all vampires. But with this, it's like 2D. It's a veil when you're being born and you're being like pushed out. And so like there's only one direction of out. And so when you're saying like pull, if you're a doctor, it's like you're pulling the baby into existence. It isn't like the doctor telling the woman giving birth to pull. She has to know to push, and like they tell her to breathe as if you weren't supposed to breathe. This is the whole thing, like a laxative. Everything you consume, you have to go to the outhouse or a porta potty or a bathroom and put it out because it runs through you. So it's a laxative. But here's where blurring the lines comes into pesky law. This is what pesky descriptions. And it all started with Cato. Cato is like they started putting it in bread. That's when you know, oh, people are buying it and it's in bread. We'll just put it in everything. That opened a door whatever GMO could be, a plethora of things. That's why plant-based is a huge thing, because everyone wants it and it's so diverse. Shoot. I keep forgetting my cues because I'm on tangents. Oh, vampires. Yeah, if someone has like chalk dries out stuff, so they have it on their hands a lot. If they have it and they put it all over a room, the whole room, I call it like airborne. It like dries up stuff. The same can be said with salt, but it's just, this is how superconductivity gains traction. enclosed systems. They call it closed loop, but it's port of accesses are important, but like the same with salt on the roads, and then it goes in, and you see like if stuff doesn't get cleaned out, there's salt everywhere, and it can be dry. But it can be the same said with like turmeric. If you get turmeric everywhere, then everything is going to look yellow. There's something there with applying these to grains and in bulk and how they're spread. And I know this because this is what they want with nanoparticles to like have life be it. But from silicone-based life, by getting rid of carbon, because we're carbon-based life. And then carbon initiatives, and then shoot. Oh yeah, the vampires. When you're like chalk everywhere, my skin starts flaking, and I described this in part 1. This is part 2. Vampires. It would be like when the solar eclipse, there's like 30 minutes before where it's like really looks like you have on sunglasses, and you can tell right when it starts changing that something's definitely going to happen. And like I told it way ahead of time, it started tinting. It's like a tint, not like the sun is setting, but it's like the moon is doing this. And so it's like this filter where it's a giant filter, the moon is, and it's in a percentage. But this 58%, it was a thing where it was the sun wasn't entirely out, so it's the vampires, they wouldn't be in daytime entirely. This is what the 40 days of night they had in Alaska. The vampire set was perfect in that because there wasn't dark. It was dark the whole time. But with the solar eclipse, it would be at like 58%. So like they would not be entirely like turned into ash. They would have like parts of their, and this is how planters float warts. They go up into like these risque places. This is how viruses act too, to not be seen, like in between toes, and you can see them trying to canal into like getting into crevices. It's so disgusting. And so you can all see like that's what Johnny Depp said, when people are on screen you can tell if they're being authentic or not, and you know if someone's being good. This is the whole thing with they're trying to describe in what's real time. But with dry skin, it's like my knuckles, I hate showing like defects on camera, but it's like they get dry, but then it's this chalk everywhere that was inside a gymnasium was making the more so my skin on my knuckle dry out into like this concentrated state, and it was canaling to the sides of my hands. And one time in the sides of my fingers I had pores because I had really sweaty hands because I was nervous a lot, and I had sweaty armpits during like adolescence. So in between my fingers were these literal pores that were really big, the size of like the blackheads on your nose. If you look really closely, there's pores on your nose. The blackheads, that's like fungus, is disgusting, but notably so. The dryness going from my dry spot knuckle was going into the sides of my finger, canoeing off of it like a planter's wart. And so in between my fingers, it's like that was happening with the dryness, and it's also been those pores that were there. What's next? This whole talk is what literally, and then it's just the PR where they all want good PR, these businesses, and they'll put out the most corniest ads to make them look personable on TV. You know, and I can't speak for all of them, but it's just not all, but most. And then I ran into these Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't want to talk about like, I'll just say like godly stuff, gaudy, but like yeah, I was like describing. So applying your skin, it dissolves into your bone, and I guess like all your guts dissolve. Oh, they'd be tortured to death by demons, and that's the third layer of repetitiveness. Is the demons are ever repeating for eternity. And so that's the third layer. But back to the second layer is the skin regenerates in your body. The skin regenerates your organs to live flesh. Like you're supposed to deny your flesh. So in hell, like once it like dissolves, it just comes back, and then you have to like see it dissolve again, and it just repeats. That's probably what triggers the psychosis. But in any case, there's another place where people get pushed into a lake of fire, or it's just like a lake of all these humans in the ocean, and they try not getting pushed off a cliff. So I always manual on edges, and I'm really good at that. So instead of falling over when you're on an edge, you can see all these like feet scrapes against the edge of people from behind them pushing you over the edge, and you get pushed into the lake or fire or ocean. And people